What is going? Wow, new side-by-side action there. What's going on, everybody? It is episode 257 of the Garage Beers podcast. Welcome on in here on the OBR streaming network, the Orange and Brown Report, your home for some of the best Cleveland Browns coverage in all of Ohio. If you're not subscribed right now, get over to the OBR.com and make sure you're following the OBR on all the socials at the OBR on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere the OBR posts. Again, we're in the heyday of the OBR right now. It's draft season. So you want to make sure you are subscribed and tuned in there. Also, make sure you get over to the socials at the Garage Beers everywhere to follow us, whether it is Twitter or Chad's favorite TikTok. He makes incredible dance videos on TikTok. So you want to be sure you're following there, but make sure you're following along on all the socials as we have got a great episode planned for you here on episode 257. A little bit later in the show, the Cleveland Guardians are back. We're going to talk about that. The Cleveland Cavaliers looking to wrap up a 1 seed here soon. We got the Columbus Blue Jackets just scoring goals left and right. We may actually talk about that with our guest for a minute here tonight. And again, in just a minute, we've got a great special guest that I will introduce here in just a second. But joining me as always, I'm your host, Michael Keefe. Find me online at Garage Beers Mike. And joining me from the east side of Cleveland, inside tonight, because it's a little bit cold outside on that patio, it's Chad Meyer at Garage Beers. Chad, what's up, Chad?
I kind of want to start the show with my asshole of the week.
Oh no!
Yeah, I don't get it. It's only because I just get, huh?
Who hurt you?
No, you know what? No one did, but I came across like a live stream, like one of those Barstool ones, or like something else. I think it was like a John Boy one or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not so much like the people who watch him, but the idea of like people watching a game that you could just be watching yourself on TV. Like, it just seems like an asshole concept to me. like I don't get it.
You're talking about, so I kind of like the playback thing where you like watch the game with somebody that's live streaming, but you're also watching the game. Are you talking about just people watching the game, people watch the game?
Yeah. People like watching the live stream of people watching a game and just waiting for someone to react, just watching people sit there looking at their phones while they're watching the game. I don't get it. Maybe that's get off my lawn type stuff. It seems like an asshole concept to me. Why the hell would you want to do that?
Listen, I feel like this is just the getting old situation, right? This is just us getting old. My son watches videos of people playing video games. I don't know. I'm like, why don't you just play the video game? Isn't that fun? Yeah. And he's like, no, I'd rather watch this guy do it. Yeah. That's right. You better develop another asshole of the week for later in the show. I don't want that. I don't want us to have just blown your load right there with asshole of the week right there.
Whoa. Whoa. All right.
Well, listen, like I said, we got a great show. Obviously, Joey normally here with us. He got called away for work tonight, so Joey won't be here with us tonight. But listen, I don't want to waste it with our
not dealing international business, man.
He's such a jerk. I don't want to waste a minute with our special guest. We're going to have a great time here. I think we're actually going to bring up a couple different topics, but I think we're going to talk primarily about the Cleveland Browns because our special guest tonight is one of the two hosts of Cleveland Browns Daily with our buddy Nathan Zagura. Plus, he is the host of Bishop and Friends down there on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. So if you're one of our Cleveland fans and followers, you're going to love it. If you're one of our Columbus people, you're going to love it. We're going to bring him in right now. It's Beau Bishop. Beau, for the first time ever, welcome on into the Garage Beers podcast.
What a time to be alive, fellas. I do have to say that you guys, so Garage Beers, I'm a man, I'm 40. It's nightcap time for your Uncle Beau. So I got to go with mother's milk, but God bless. So cheers. Good to be on, boys.
Yeah, but listen, man, it's great to have you. We couldn't see your video is a little choppy, but we're just what's the drink tonight? What's the beverage?
We're going with a whiskey war. Whiskey war, a little bit of a Madeira cast. So we're living a little bit on that side of things. Everything okay on the stream? Are we okay? Can I do some adjustments?
But I don't. It's the video's a bit choppy, but listen, we can hear you fine, so that's the most important thing.
Aces.
And if need be, and your video isn't working right, then we'll figure that out from there. But it's all good.
Okay, great.
And listen, we don't turn down any beverages here on the Garage Beers podcast. So Garage Whiskey's always good. And you just kicked off our first segment of the week, which is our Garage Beers of the Week with a whiskey. Let's send it around real quick. Chad, what are you drinking tonight? What's your beer of the week?
Oh, boys, it's been a day. So I'm going with something heavy tonight. I went out to Dogfish Head And Mike, I got some worldwide stouts left over. Look at that bad boy.
Oh man.
Yeah. We're going with worldwide stouts. And Beau, if you're not familiar, Dogfish Head likes to really experiment with their brews. They also don't put an alcohol level on this one. They just give you a range. And this ends up, they age this one so much where it ends up being between 15 and 22% alcohol. So you only need one. You only need one to do the trick. And that's what I'm going to be sipping on tonight, boys.
It's great.
We've got some people in the comments talking about their drinks. Drew, always fat tier for the show, warmed up with a handful of Bush Heavies. Nothing wrong with that, Drew. We love that. I'm sure some more people will get in here. Richie Fox real excited about this. I saw him on Twitter. He's real excited about this.
Oh my God, that's Ned. That's Richie's an all-timer. That's an all-time great. He is a legendary CBD listener right there.
Yeah, he sure is. And he is pumped for that. He's one of our legendary listeners too. So he's pumped for this. And I got to tell you, Jeff Tucker, I'm a little upset. You didn't like the music, Jeff? I wrote and recorded that music all by myself. All right, Jeff. So I think I need you to get on board.
He sat down at a synthesizer.
And I made my best porn / podcast music. So deal with it. I want to give a special shout out. This was beer sent to us from the Columbus area, from Henmick Farm and Brewery, where we've got a friend that kind of runs things down there at Henmick Farm and Brewery. I don't know if you're familiar with it down there, Beau, but down in the Columbus area, Henmick Farm and Brewery, it's one of the most beautiful places. I've seen pictures of it. I've never been there, but they sent us some beers. And so I wanted to have one on tonight. This is the Henmick Belgian Golden Strong Ale. And a shout out from Columbus, where, again, big name Beau down there from Bishop Friends. We've got the delicious Golden Belgian Ale.
Beautiful.
And that is what we are rolling with tonight. So
it looks like he's in a wine bottle.
It's a big bottle. It's a big bottle. Brian Kay's got his drinks tonight. Jeff Tucker's drinking Cigar City from Tampa. I don't know. Ye Old Molson Triple X tonight. Brandon, you're going hard. You're going hard with that. Yeah, that's crazy. But those are our drinks. You guys, thank you for jumping in. Keep putting them in the comments. Cheers to everybody. And now it's time to get into episode 257 of the Garage Beers podcast featuring Beau Bishop. And Beau, man, the Browns we're going to start with the Browns.
Yeah.
I think we might end with a little good news from one of those Columbus teams that you have to talk about a lot down there. But let's start with the Browns. And they just keep giving us stuff to talk about, don't they, Beau? They never make your life difficult on Cleveland Browns Daily trying to find stuff to talk about, do they?
Well, so much of that is the passion, right? I mean, it's the passion of the fan base. It's the best fans in the land. And I think that one thing that I do think ownership with the Browns just doggedly attempts to do is to get this right and to spend whatever is able to be spent to do so. I thought Jimmy Haslam's comments were kind of like old school leadership comments on Monday. Like, hey, I own the team. The buck stops with me. It's one of the things, guys, that's so interesting is how the amount of people who come up to me, and I know Nathan gets this too, where it's like, yeah, it was the Haslams who wanted Watson, right? They really pushed that through. They forced that. It's like, no, that was not it. Like it was, you talk to your guys on the beat, you talk to the people who were really plugged in. It was football that brought it to them. And the Haslams then said, look, if this is who you really want, we're going to make sure it gets done. And they did it. But regardless of that, I thought it was kind of like old school leadership to be like, look, I own the team. I signed the checks. It stops with me and D. And that's, you're going to blame somebody, blame us. So I thought that was kind of an interesting break and kind of the first time that's been acknowledged. So that was a really big moment on Monday.
Now, I want to ask a little bit more. I know, you know, too many details probably can't be divulged as far as the situation goes, but you know, Jimmy called it a big swing and a miss, and that's kind of how I think a lot of rational people would describe it as, because at the time, based on the knowledge that we had, you can't blame the Browns for trading for Deshaun. I mean, he was a top 5 quarterback at the time. But when, you know, obviously as time went on, you know, you realize that this wasn't working out. Like was this something that was always known as a big swing and a miss? Was this something as like, okay, we have to admit this? Like what was the vibes as the years went on in this Deshaun era?
Well, I think so much of it, and one part of that comment that Jimmy mentioned there that I think kind of got blown out because the headline was, a swing and a miss. But the other part, he said a lot of it had to do with injury, right? Like he had 3 catastrophic injuries, and so that was a part of it. I think if you go all the way back at the time of acquisition, the intel they had certainly did not suggest that initial suspension would be as long as it was. So right out of the gates, I mean, it was me, the Hoff, and Z. We're doing Cleveland Browns Daily live at training camp when at the end of camp, they informed him what we thought was going to be a 4 or 6 game suspension was going to end up being 10 or whatever, at 12. I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. But it was, wait, what? Like now that's happened. And then you get the catastrophic injury. The second half against Baltimore, when he goes 14 of 14, coming off the field that day 2 years ago, you say, this is it. Like, this is who you acquired. You said it. Top 5 quarterback in the league. This is who you acquired. A guy who's going to go 14 of 14, go to Baltimore, do all of those things, get that win. And then the injury happened. And then the injury happens the next year. And then all of a sudden it becomes, it's been so long since he's played healthy. I mean, it's 2020. It's forever, since he's played. So it's just like, and it's, the reality is it's 2 Achilles surgeries within 3 months, and you can't cheat that. So it's just been one of those. I think one of the thing too, guys, that got lost is like they went into last season with the approach of let's do everything in our power to get the best out of this guy. So let's bring in Ken Dorsey, who ran with the offense, and Allen, and let's give him all the tools he needs to succeed. And it didn't work. And sometimes you swing and a miss, and that's what this ended up being for a bunch of different circumstances. And now they're trying to dig their way out.
Well, I think there's a few things that happened during this press conference that Jimmy Haslam gives, and I like that you hit on the one, because I don't know why there's this need. I don't know why there's this need constantly to pinpoint things on one specific person. Was it Jimmy Haslam that made the move? Was it Andrew Berry? Was it Kevin Stefanski that wanted it? Like it's like we lose track of how things really work in the real world, where you have hey, let's have a discussion and then come to a decision on what we're going to do. It's like people have this need to it had to have been this one guy that really wanted this. And I don't understand that. So I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing though, and I will say this, I've been very critical. There's a lot of times where I've wished maybe Jimmy didn't talk. There's been some of those times. I will tell you, I think this was the best press conference I've seen him give, if we're not counting when he actually bought the team, because obviously that was all rah, let's do this. But the fact that he stood in front of those cameras and said, we're taking accountability. We're, it was a swing and a miss. But also, I want your thoughts on this, Beau. Deshaun's still on the team.
Yeah.
And Deshaun's in the building. He's working out in the building. He's there. I don't know how often he's there, but he's been there. So to hear the owner of the team come out and say that, are there ripple effects that come from that?
I don't think so, Mike. I think it's like, I don't think so. I think it's like just saying the quiet part out loud a little bit. I think it's just kind of known. I mean, you've heard Miles with the comments. You've heard Jerry Jeudy with the comments. We got to find a quarterback. This is a guy, even in the most unbelievably optimistic view of this, him getting back to what he was now so long ago, there's just no precedent.
No. Right?
No one's ever done that, 5 years without – there's no precedent. So it's catastrophic injury after catastrophic injury, and there's no path forward for him there. When he's in the building, he's very positive and he's those things. And but the reality is just that they had to turn the page. And I think it was cathartic probably for a lot of the fan base to say, okay, finally it's said out loud. I mean, it's saying Jimmy Haslam, he's the owner of the team, him and D, owners of the team. They said the quiet part out loud. And I think that for the fans, it was like, okay, finally. All right, let's start to find our way out of this thing.
Beau, real quick, it's April. So obviously we want to turn our attention to what's happening in April, which is the NFL draft, which you guys have talked about a lot, but we want to maybe hit on a couple things with you here tonight. But as somebody who's in that building as much as you are, as somebody who's around the organization as much as you are, I do want to ask you this question. When the news comes that Myles Garrett and the team do come to terms,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to the mood in that building? How is there a palpable feel change in that building when Myles Garrett says, "Yeah, I'm signing this extension. I'm coming back"?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, there wasn't
Maybe a little, yeah.
just a little, yeah. Like, you know, I think anybody who like understood the math of it realized there really wasn't a roadmap for him to not be a Cleveland Brown. But you also didn't want it to get ugly and to be something that was acrimonious that led into camp and was like a holdout. And it's like, wait a second, like this is him, Joe Thomas, and then it's like Jim Brown. I mean, it's like greatest players in the history of the franchise type stuff. And so, like, you don't want there to be any acrimony between him and the fan base. When you guys are at the stadium, when his name is announced, it's the loudest. It's him and Nick Chubb, right? When Nick was what Nick used to be. And they're the loudest. Right. And you can't have that be negative. And so to salvage that, he wins. He's the highest paid position player, at least till Jamar Chase got his deal done, highest paid defensive player. So he wins in that sense. He gets to end his career as a Cleveland Brown. That's something the fans want. It's something ownership wants. And it's something that he was eventually able to get to. And I think they sold him on a plan of, I think Myles also too, guys, I think he had the scar tissue of 1-31. I mean, he was here for that. And I think he didn't want to hear from Andrew Berry or ownership or Kevin Stefanski, hey, man, we got to tear this thing down to the studs and start over. That's not what they're doing. They're trying to pivot on the fly and get right back to competitiveness. And I think that sold him a little bit. I think he needed to hear that from them because he lived through that like we all did.
Now, Beau, as someone who's in the building, like Mike said, as much as you are, pretend I'm Andrew Siciliano for a second. Beau, do you have an idea of who the quarterback is going to be next year? No, I'm just kidding.
If you're Siciliano, I would say, why every time do I see you, you're on a beach?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The guy's constantly on a beach. That guy.
But yeah,
it's Edgewater. It's beautiful.
Right,
it really is stunning this time of year.
Now, he caught the 15 minutes of sunshine we've gotten last week or so.
Yeah, right.
Now, Beau, I mean, as far as this draft goes, I mean, obviously the speculation is going to continue all the way up until the draft. Mm-hmm. Is it Carter? Is it Hunter? Is it, maybe it's Sanders? Maybe, Titans take Carter. And when really the reality is, I mean, the Browns are in a win-win situation no matter who they get at number 2, right? I mean, I don't. Yeah. It feels like there's no wrong answer here.
No, one thing Nathan and I have been pretty consistent about is the only way truly out of this is a quarterback at 2. Like truly out of it, like all the way out, right? It's falling into Jaden Daniels. That's the only way that you go from like where you are to contending in the snap of a fingers. Like that's it. Now, there's a lot of different machinations of that, and how do you go about it? Nathan's one thing that he's been saying pretty consistently is the pick at number 2 has to lead to the answer at quarterback. So whether that's a trade back or some way to the long-term answer at quarterback, is you might not be in this spot again, right? Like sitting at 2, one thing we've talked about a lot is the NFL is now getting a lot more accustomed to the middle class. You don't see that many teams that are like tanking for picks anymore. Like everybody understands that there's a pound of flesh that comes with tanking, and they don't necessarily want to pay that anymore. So that's a change from 10 years ago. So yeah, I think no matter what happens at 2, you're going to get a great player. The thing that I've been saying all along is, look, Kevin Stefanski and Pat Shurmur go way back. If Shedeur Sanders can play quarterback at the NFL level at a high level, Kevin Stefanski knows the answer to that. Okay. Glenn Cook, who's our assistant general manager, he is tied in tight. He played at the U. He's tied in tight at the University of Miami. If Cam Ward's an NFL quarterback, we know the real truth on that. So we should have the best view of those 2 quarterbacks. And if they view that neither one of them are the long-term answer at quarterback, then just pivot on the fly. For me, I'd go Travis Hunter. I'm an idea man. I thrive on enthusiasm. I want to see some offense. I think you got to score in this league. I don't think you can win defensively anymore. I mean, it's a long time since Trent Dilfer won it. I think you got to get you're in a division with Burrow and Lamar and probably Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. You've got to score 24 points or more consistently. So Hunter's a weapon, elite weapon. If it's not a quarterback at 2, that's where I would want to pivot to. Abdul Carter's great. To me, he's a little undersized, and I would just be like Myles is the best defensive end in football. We won 3 games last year, and he maybe was better this year than he was last year. So it's just you have to get offensive firepower at some point. So I hope that's what they do it too.
Yeah, it's been very fun to listen to you and Nathan, because I feel like I keep leaning towards, and if you have a guy there that you feel like at any of those premier positions, whether it's quarterback, cornerback, wide receiver, edge rusher, that you feel like is day one immediate impact player that can develop into Pro Bowl / All Pro / whatever guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy you got to get. And that's been the hardest thing, I think, of this whole conversation. To be honest with you, it's the most damn frustrating thing about this situation for the Cleveland Browns.
So hard.
Is that every time the Cleveland Browns have one of these top picks, they have it in a year where there isn't just that clear cut, like you got to that.
There's no slam dunk.
Quarterbacks, slam dunks. And we're going to easily, it was 2018. We were all arguing in 2018 about Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold and Baker. And nobody was even talking about Lamar Jackson. And those are the years the Browns have these picks. But my thing is this. I know there's a lot of people out there that say you got to get your quarterback and you got to get him at number 2. But if you are evaluating, and I know you just kind of alluded to this, Beau, but if you're evaluating a guy like Shedeur Sanders, and your evaluation is, we probably think he's kind of a late first round, early second round pick. But you're evaluating Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter going, this dude's generational. This dude is elite. He is going to come in, impact from day one. I really don't want to take a quarterback just for the sake of doing it. You got to figure out quarterback. You have to. It's got to be a priority. But if you got a guy at the top of the draft that could come in and impact you day one to help you win games day one, even if it's not at the quarterback position, for the long term, you got to take that guy, because you can't swing and a miss at quarterback. You can't swing and miss at quarterback at pick 2. You can't.
Well, look, Mike, I mean, we even have our last 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
So we need a ton of talent. We have a lot of holes on the roster, so you need a ton of talent. So I think your point is well made. I also think that, let me pose this to you guys. Do you think that there is in the back of Browns fans' minds, like a fear of embarrassment of taking a quarterback in 2 that busts?
If we haven't had the years that we've had the last 25 years, I would say I would say no. I think Browns fans are in my opinion, I think Browns fans are, it's kind of a guilty until proven innocent thing, right? Like, I think the Browns fans are just are going to automatically be very anxious about it, very skeptical about it until they actually see the guy on the field.
Okay, so this is why I asked the question, because I think that there is a fear of drafting a guy at 2 and his name ending up on the bottom of that jersey. Okay, so like we had Jed Wills, who was a first-round pick, 10th overall. He is a free agent. No one talks about it because he's left tackle. Nobody talks about it. When you draft a quarterback high, and we've only had Tim Couch, Bake, is that it in the top 3 in the last since we've come back?
Correct.
Everything else has been 12, 7.
Well, they drafted quarterback at 21, 22, like three times.
There you go. So we've only really picked our guy twice. And I would argue Tim got undone by the fact that he quarterbacked an expansion team, and there was no way for that to be successful. Right. If he was in Philly, I think he would have been great. Right. Bake, a billion circumstances led to him. Not only did the Browns wasn't going to work there, but Carolina bailed on him. The Rams bailed on him. So like it took a lot for him to get to the point that he is, where he is at now. So I do think that there is kind of a fear of, if we miss on this, it'll be embarrassing. And the one thing I would say is, like, it's not as punitive as it used to be. In the Matt Stafford, Sam Bradford era, you draft a quarterback at 2 and you don't hit on it, it crushes you for 5 years. Now you miss on a quarterback at 2, and I'm not suggesting draft one just to draft one, and I don't think they'll do that. I know that you mentioned that, Mike. They're not going to do that. Like, they will pick the best player available. But if you have Shedeur Sanders as the 14th best player in this draft, and a lot of people have him as a top 20 player in this draft, you think he can play quarterback in this league for a decade. And by the way, they know if he can or not already. We can talk about this. Kevin has been on the phone with Pat Shermer a million times. He knows if Shedeur say, and he trusts Pat, so he knows if Shedeur can play in the league or not. They know that. They know if Cam can play in the league or not. They know it. So that information will come to roost, I think, on draft day. And I just would tell you this, and I think Haslam's words were completely honest. They're not going to take a quarterback just to take one. So if people are worried about that, that's not the case. I think if they don't love who's there at 2, let's say they love Cam Ward hypothetically, and he's gone at 1. Tennessee just takes him, which, by the way, it seems like they're going to, and they just stay at 1 and take him. Then I think they'll stay at 2, and whoever's highest on their board, whether it's Travis or Abdul, I think they'll go there right there and not think twice about it.
Yeah. Just the only caveat to all of that, is if there was, if by chance, a slam dunk quarterback when we were picking at the top of the draft, that's the only way I think Browns fans wouldn't be in fear of taking a quarterback. But we're never in that position, Beau. So,
Chad, who are those guys though? Like, it's been fascinating to look back. I mean, Nathan and I have been going to the combine since 2018 every year.
Yeah,
and every year we're there. Guys, a year ago at this time, everybody at the combine said Caleb Williams by 100 miles. Not close. Caleb Williams is Andrew Luck. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is Peyton Manning. He's John Elway. There aren't sure. No one was talking about Jaden Daniels like he was what Jaden Daniels was.
Sure.
Nobody.
Sure. But I think the difference there is you have those guys are talked about like that. There's no guys there that, like, Baker wasn't talked about that. Sam Darnold wasn't talked about, like, and when we're in position to do that.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, a couple of quick hitters, Beau. Our friend Richie, who is one of your legendary caller-inners on Cleveland Browns Daily, says, Beau, is there and this is, I believe, a Harry Potter reference, a quote, he who shall not be named in this draft for you?
So this is Richie's loyal. So this goes back to Z and I in the draft. We get we have a little fun with this. So there was a linebacker safety at Clemson named Isaiah Simmons, who we called Dos Unos, who we really liked, and we weren't. Maybe that didn't hit absolutely. And then there was another one like Grant Delpit, who we loved out of LSU. We're like, God, we love Delpit. Like, we knew we needed a safety. Delpit would be amazing. So what we started to do is say, like, he who shall not be named, as to not jinx the Browns from picking it, was the whole idea. Oh, so like all of the hints, all the references are all to he who should not be, like a guy that we love. I just tell you this, Richie, there is a weapon at 33 that is a he who shall not be named. There are a couple of them that we've discussed on the show recently that we love. And one thing we're pretty transparent about, like weapons. Like, we got to have more weapons. We don't have enough. So figure out how to get a bunch of them. So there will be some of those as we get closer for sure. And Richie listens loyal, so he knows the ones we're referring to.
Well, hey, listen,
eyeball emoji. There it is.
I agree with you. And I think if you want a little hint as to how the Browns are going to approach this draft, what's one thing Kevin Stefanski said a lot about his offense last year? He used the word explosive a lot. They want to get more explosive.
Yeah,
that is what they talked about over. Kevin Stefanski said it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And so I would really look at them looking at explosive players in this draft. And I hope that's the direction that they go.
Yeah.
Whoa, real quickly. And we know we talk a lot about the Browns, but we're one of the home podcasts of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I know you got the show down there on the fan on 97.1, Bishop and Friends. The Blue Jackets tonight just absolutely hammering the Nashville Predators. Kirill Marchenko with a hat trick.
Nice.
How's the vibe down there? Chad and I were down at the Stadium Series game at Ohio Stadium.
Great?
How's the vibe down there as they fight for this playoff berth?
It's interesting. For a long time, I think the Blue Jackets and the Browns were kind of on parallel paths, and that they had these. The difference was the Browns had this museum of history that they could rely upon, and the Blue Jackets didn't. When the Blue Jackets came to Columbus, there's one ice rink in town, right? So like now it's like a mecca for youth hockey. So like that was something that didn't even exist when they got there. So I think the one thing that incredible fan base down there just wanted was it built once right. That's it. Like, they can handle the losing. They will be there. It's a great barn. You've been to Nationwide. It's an awesome barn.
Oh, yeah.
They will be there. The atmosphere is awesome. They just wanted it built once right. And the reality is, whether they make the postseason or not, tonight's a nice indicator that headed potentially towards that. Basically, they play every other night from here until the middle of April. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs are now for them.
Yeah,
they're in it. So I think what from the people down there, what you want is like, it's whether we make it or not, this now is built right. Marchenko's a star. Fantilli's a star. Kent Johnson's a star. Zach Wierenski's a star. They've got them littered up and down the roster now, right? Like they've never, if you guys have been Jackets fans for a long time, they've never had forward depth like this down the middle. Never. They've never had it like set up like this. So, I think that's it. And then, look, I was doing 10 minutes before I started Bishop and Friends the Friday before the very first Ohio State football game of the year, which is one of the most fun shows that I do in Columbus every year, is the Friday before the Buckeye opener is one of my most favorite shows. Yeah. 10 to 15 minutes before that, I found out that Johnny Gaudreau had died.
Yeah.
And what was going to be a celebration of Buckeye football and all that comes with that, I ended up presiding over a wake, essentially, for 3 hours. And the whole city was in a state of shock and grief, the likes of which you can't really wrap your head around, because it was so absurd, and only hockey people who love hockey understand this. But the idea that Johnny Gaudreau would choose to play in Columbus, I mean, this was the guy who had the country of Canada wrapped around his fingers. Johnny Hockey with the Flames. Yeah. Like, I mean, he was so popular up there. Like, everybody thought he was going to go to the Flyers. Columbus? He's choosing to live here, right? I mean, it was just, and I talked to him many times, and he's just such a cool dude. And you could kind of feel all of this coming, right? Like a superstar player, these young guys elevating all of these things. And then it was taken. But Nevison and the front office there and the leadership there did such an incredible job. Ownership down there, McConnell family, of rallying around the most impossible circumstances. So, guys, I said that if that Stadium Series game that you guys attended, that game had to matter. It did. It mattered. It mattered in the standings. It mattered in terms of chasing the postseason. That had to happen. And then beyond that, everything else is gravy. And so we're in the gravy stages now. We're greedy because we want to have a little more and we want to go into the postseason. But at the same time, like, this has just been a magical run. And for the first time, I think, really ever, this is so sustainable.
Yeah.
And they've never had that before.
Yeah, I keep saying too, it's on my recaps, like, this is the house money season for the Jackets. Yeah. I mean, nobody expected them to be here. So anything they do from here on out, even if they don't make it, like, there is so much to build on from this season.
You nailed it. Yeah, to luck into Fantilli at 3. I mean, Johnson's a stud. Like, they're just in a really good spot, and it's been a really fun story to follow this year. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks they can get it in. And I tell Jackets fans this today on my show today. I'm like, man, you want to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you're in them. It's right now, because they're off tomorrow and then they play. Then they're off and then they play back to back. And that's the pattern from here until April 14th.
Yeah. These are your meaningful games.
Yeah.
And if you want to be really excited, this offseason, there's nobody in the NHL that has more cap space than the Columbus Blue Jackets. And also, I want to give a shout out for tonight's game. Mark Scheig, our buddy Mark Scheig that covers the Jackets. The Jackets now have 14 games this season scoring 6 or more goals. It's the only team in the NHL that has 14 games on the season scoring 6 or more goals.
It's crazy.
Nobody else has done it.
No,
now, Beau, I got one more quick one for you. I'm just curious. I'm totally curious about this, if I could. That period between Buckeyes, the Michigan game and the playoff, was your life just a living hell? Like, or did everybody or, on the show, or was it like, I have all the confidence in the world in this team going to the playoffs?
No. I think that's why that Tennessee game was so nervy, Chad. I mean, it was nobody knew what that was going to look like. It was like, I don't know if they're going to burn this whole place down. I don't know if they're going to quit. I don't know if they're going to rally. You found out pretty quickly how they would respond, but you don't know what's going to happen when you get punched in the mouth. I didn't know if they'd get up off the mat. I knew they had great leadership. I knew they had that. I know they believed in their coaches. But it's really one of the most dumbfounding losses in the history of me talking about sports, which is now I'm dating myself almost 25 years. But like, it's impossible to wrap your head around that loss. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's even to this day, and thank goodness they won it all, and so we don't have to, because it's one of those sliding doors moments where if the Tennessee game doesn't go that way, who the hell knows what happens to that program? right? Who knows? But it did, and the rest is history. And they had a magical run, and then they just were a behemoth and everything we kind of thought they would be. But it was very difficult. And when I went back to the Fan in 08 and 18, that was with Laurinaitis. So he's one of my best friends, still great friend to this day. He and I did radio together for 4.5 years. I talked to him more than my wife 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? Over that time. So like, he's the linebacker coach. Like, I've known Brian Hartline since he first got on campus. Like, so I've got, at times, I think one of the criticisms I get is I'm a little too close to it to be totally analytical about it. But no, it was a tough couple of weeks until that Tennessee game, and I had no clue, and I don't know anybody except for maybe the people in the building that thought that was coming.
Well, it did come, and you covered it well, just like you cover all of Columbus sports well, just like you cover the Cleveland Browns well. Listen, man, it's been too long that we haven't had John. Actually, today is our 5-year anniversary. I didn't even say it. It's our 5-year anniversary of the show. So big anniversary show. And I can't think of a much better guest that we could have had on for our 5-year anniversary show than Beau Bishop, covering the Jackets, the Buckeyes, our Browns, kind of our whole footprint that we cover here, man. It has been awesome talking with you. We really appreciate the time you dedicated to us here tonight. And we're going to let you get out of here for the rest of the night, but let's do it again because we had a great time doing it. Yeah. Make sure you catch Beau on Bishop and Friends, 97.1 The Fan down in Columbus, Cleveland Browns Daily, and follow him on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, at Beau Bishop. Thank you so much for coming on, having a drink with us, and talking sports.
My pleasure, boys. Cheers. Have a great night.
You too, Beau. See ya.
Beau.
Take care, guys.
How about Beau Bishop? That was fun, man.
Yeah.
Beau's like the guy that I feel like covers everything that we cover. I feel like we talk to a lot of Cleveland guys. We talk to a lot of Columbus guys, but man, to have somebody on that does Cleveland and Columbus, that was a good time. And some good thought processes there.
A lot of driving.
From Beau.
A lot of driving.
As far as, especially the Cleveland Browns are concerned. I got to tell you, and I told Beau, I've disagreed a bit with Beau and Nathan on how they've talked about the Browns and the draft and all that, because it's been very heavy skewed towards the quarterback. And it's not about fear for me. I don't know how it is for you, Chad. Maybe you tell me if you think it's a fear thing. For me, I don't feel like it's a fear thing. I'm not afraid of them drafting the wrong quarterback. What I'm afraid of is them passing up the right guy. If Travis Hunter, who we've talked about on the show, my only fear about Travis Hunter is that a coach in the NFL isn't going to know how to use him.
Sure.
That's my only fear. I think Travis Hunter is elite at everything that he does on the football field.
Yeah.
My only fear with him is that a coach doesn't know how to use him. Abdul Carter, he called him undersized. I don't agree with him on his evaluation of Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter is a freak talent. You will hear Penn State people say that they think Abdul Carter is a better version of Micah Parsons. Now, listen, I don't know that I'm saying that, but like, that's what I've heard Penn State people say. Like, I don't want to miss on a guy like that. Those are guys that help you win. You got to get your quarterback. You got to figure out a quarterback that can win games for your football team. But if you're telling me that that Abdul Carter is even on the level of Micah Parsons, and you're going to put that across for Myles Garrett, you're going to tell me that's not going to result in more wins? I don't believe you. Go get the right guy, but you figure out the quarterback, get the right guy at 2. That's my philosophy with the draft.
I mean, yeah, but there's about 5 or 6 different guys that could be the right guy at 2, though. So is there a fear? Yes. Because it's just, there has to be a fear, right? Because they haven't gotten it right for so long. It's been so wrong for so long that, yeah, of course you're going to be skeptic. Of course. How could you not be? I mean, and Browns fans, it's almost like Browns fans need to be comforted in a way that, like, they need to be comforted by experts or draft analysts to make them feel like that, yeah, this is the guy, right? You know, you talk about explosiveness and adding Travis Hunter and how awesome it would be to add Travis Hunter. The caveat to that there, Mike, is who's going to throw him the football? You don't know. Kenny Pickett right now is the only person that's going to be able to throw the ball to Hunter right now is Kenny Pickett. And do you feel good about that? I don't. I sure as hell don't. So it's yes. Obviously, there is going to be a fear. Say there, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders at 2, if that's the route they go, yeah, of course. But I think that opinion is based on nobody's talking about, oh, these are franchise changing guys, right? These are the guys that can take you to that next level. So it's people, words matter when it comes to Browns fans, and they need to hear that this guy is the next Andrew Luck. This guy's the next home run hitter. This guy's the next surefire thing. And that just hasn't been the case with either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So yeah, there's absolutely a fear. Now on the other side of that, you got a guy that can make your defense one of the most premier defenses in the NFL if you put him across from Myles Garrett. Yeah, absolutely. You have Travis Hunter, who is a shutdown man-to-man corner, and he can also be electric for your offense as well. So that's why I talked to Beau. I said you're really in a win-win situation because there's nothing. There's no wrong pick here because every person any possibility that you pick at 2 is going to be a position of great need. So it's I don't know. It's almost like, yes, I have my preferences, but at the same time, whoever they do pick at 2, it's going to be like, okay, let's go. Let's see if they work out.
I got to tell you, my preference has skewed. And listen, I will tell you this. If for some reason the Tennessee Titans come out and say our defense sucks ass, we're going to go get Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, and I'm Andrew Berry, I think I could probably run the card to Green Bay faster than I could call it in for Cam Ward.
Yeah, yeah.
If Cam Ward's on the board at 2, Cam Ward is a Cleveland Brown. Right? We're not. Is anybody arguing that? I don't think anybody's arguing that. If Cam Ward is on the board at 2, Cam Ward is a Cleveland Brown. I don't know. Maybe some of my OBR brethren will disagree with that. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think I piss off the OBR brethren. I think I do.
Well, yeah, you piss off everybody. That's why we like you, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the Slack channel, like it's so. If everybody could like see our Slack channel, like I'm so clearly in my I don't give a shit about what the Browns do phase until they get to the season.
It's a tough go.
Yeah,
listen,
it is.
Here's where my perspective has changed a little bit. I do not agree with the don't put one premier pass rusher. Like we already have Myles Garrett. What are you going to add another? Yes. Fuck yes. I will absolutely add another one to that. That's 100%. But the more I continue to go on and on with this draft situation, the more I think I think I like Travis Hunter the best. I think Travis Hunter's the kid I like the best. I just want them to I want them to play him as much as possible. And if that means his career isn't quite as long as some other guys, I think I'm okay with like 8 great years of Travis Hunter as opposed to like 14 pretty good years. Like
if they use him right, it'll be longer. It'll be longer than 8 years.
I think this is, I don't know. We're going to have to get there. I feel like I'm going to go back and forth on like a lot of different situations. Cause I still think my biggest thing with the draft talk right now, Chad, is I think because of who Shedeur Sanders is, and because we have been talking about Shedeur Sanders for years, as, hey, when he's draft eligible, he's going to be the guy. That's what we've been talking about for years. Even before he transferred over to Colorado, that's what we were talking about. I think we are currently hammering Shedeur with maybe over criticizing him. I think we are like overly criticizing Shedeur Sanders. I think the criticisms of him are fair. I think he takes way too many sacks. And I think he really struggles to understand how to live to fight for another play. But aside from that, as a pocket passer who gets the ball out and puts it on the spot and who has a good arm down the field, Shedur's a really good quarterback. Like, I think you've got a lot of people talking about Shedeur Sanders like he's oh my God, there's like 3 other quarterbacks I'd take in this draft over Shedeur Sanders. No. I don't want Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. I don't want Jalen Milroe over Shedeur Sanders. Like, to me, I think we've gone a little bit overboard on the way we're evaluating this. But I will say this. If you want, I'll let you respond to that, and then I'll go one last thing on the Browns, and then we'll move on.
Okay. I thought you were going to finish your point. My bad.
I'm going to let you respond to the Shedeur thing, and then I'll let you move on.
Well, I think another thing that turns people off to Shedeur is he's outspoken. A lot of people just want these kids coming out of college to show us your work ethic, right? They don't want these kids. They want these kids to be humble going into the draft process, right? They want these kids to be humble, go in there, work hard, and then once you earn it, it feels like people feel like these kids have to earn it, right? And I'm telling you something right now. And we saw with Baker coming in. If you're going to be a franchise-changing quarterback, if you're going to be a franchise quarterback, you need a little bit of ego. You need a little bit of confidence in yourself. You need to, you need to be outspoken, right? If you don't have that confidence, you're not going to do well in the NFL, right? If you're not confident in your abilities, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Right? If you're not confident in your abilities, go ahead and get taken in the 2nd, 3rd round and get developed. If you are a franchise-changing quarterback, you need a little bit of ego. You need that, and I just think that's part of it. As far as Shedeur goes, I mean, as far as his ability-wise, yeah, everything else he does hold on to the ball too long. That can be corrected. That can absolutely be coached into him. Right? He takes too many sacks. That can absolutely be coached out of him. These things that the 2 main criticisms of him aren't not fixable. So if your problem is his play, like those two areas of concern, fine, I get it. But I don't know. Just because he speaks his mind, don't let that deter you from taking him if you actually think he's going to be the guy for you.
I'm just telling you, if the card gets turned in that it's Shedeur Sanders at 2, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I've got concerns. He's not a surefire. It's hard to take a guy at 2 that's not a surefire thing. I mean, we talked with Beau about Jaden Daniels. We've seen a lot of guys come in and have one good rookie year, and then, God damn, the last quarterback that did this for Washington, the last quarterback they took at the top of the draft, had a spectacular rookie season. And then what happened?
Right.
And then what happened? Obviously, a big injury happened, but then there was never to be heard of again. And then he played for the Browns for a minute.
NFL defenses are always going to figure you out.
I think they're in a position at 2 to take one of 3 guys, whether it's a quarterback, whoever's there, or an elite pass rusher, or an elite playmaker. You said it in the interview, Chad. I feel like it's a win-win. Just get one of those guys. And go out. And I think, listen, I'm always looking for hints as to how Andrew Berry's going to operate. I know nobody likes to hear this, but if you want to see maybe a clue on why so many people are gravitating towards a guy like Abdul Carter, Andrew Berry's part of that Howie Roseman tree. And look at how the Eagles just won the Super Bowl with an absolute dominant pass rush defensive line, a dominant defense, and a 2nd-round quarterback that just kind of fit a system that they were running. Right? Sure. That's Jalen Hurts. Do you think Jalen Hurts on the Cleveland Browns is a playoff quarterback? No.
Right.
Not for a long time. Maybe now I would be more comfortable with him, but not for a long time. So that's why I think a lot of people are gravitating towards that too. So again, we are less than a month from the NFL draft. Nobody is going to cover it like the OBR. We are going to have wall-to-wall live draft coverage. The entire draft from round 1 and the Browns' first pick until the end of round 7 and the Browns' last pick. And we're going to take you all the way through, and it's going to be the whole crew. So make sure you're tuned into the OBR for everything Cleveland Browns. Plus, we'll still see. Listen, there's still a lot of rumors floating out there. There's still a lot of names getting caught, getting brought up. Chad, a lot of things are getting said. Andrew Berry said something this week, Chad. He said the quarterback room is probably going to skew young. I don't know what the hell that means. I mean, you've got Kenny Pickett. Are you going to take 2 quarterbacks in the draft? I mean, are you going to go like Shedeur Sanders and then like Kyle McCord later? Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be mad about that. I wouldn't be pissed.
Sure. Sure.
But then the rumors of the old quarterbacks continue to just come around, right? The Joe Flacco rumors, the Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was in Cleveland this week. Now, I think people forget that Kirk Cousins is, I think, the godfather of one of Jack Conklin's kids. Like, there's various reasons for Kirk Cousins to be in Cleveland, but he was here. So the rumors of the older quarterbacks are still there. It feels so fluid, doesn't it? Like this quarterback room is going to look, nobody knows what it's going to look like. That's part of the hard part about this.
Nobody knows anything right now, and the Browns have done a good job of throwing us off the scent of the draft. So, we're all going to speculate. We're all going to have fun discussing it, but no one's. I think we'll have a better idea once Tennessee does finally come out and say this is who we're taking at 1. Then people can start to narrow it down a little bit. But until then, I mean, it's going to be a full-on speculation fest 2025 until the actual draft night happens. So it's going to be fun. It's the drafting. The draft is fun to discuss. But yeah, no one's really going to know for sure until that night comes.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for the Browns. Again, big shout out to Beau Bishop for joining us here tonight on the show. But now it's time for us to move on to other topics. And there are other topics that I want to get to. There's a video you made, Chad, that I want to talk about a little bit. I want to talk about the Blue Jackets and the Guardians and the Cavs and all that. But before we do that, let's talk about our asshole of the week. And Chad, I mean, you kind of gave us one at the start of the show. Was
Sure.
there like secondary?
Yeah, sure. I'll go with people who flush paper towels down the toilet instead of toilet paper.
Who the hell does that?
Yeah, man, 1 stall bathrooms at work, and then we only have 2 bathrooms, and then two people decided to just shove some paper towels in there and just overflow the toilets, and didn't get fixed. So we had to order a porta potty today to get delivered in, so no one could. It was like it was a lineup at a sporting event. Everybody had to go outside if they had to go to the bathroom today. So I'm going to go with guys who shove paper towels down the toilet.
Man, I didn't really have a huge one. How about Paramjot's got one? My asshole of the week are Vlad Jr. and Kyle Schwarber. Lost out on $40K on a 7-leg parlay. Oh,
dicks.
40,000?
That's crazy. How much did you bet, Paramjot, if you don't mind me asking? How much did you bet on that?
Jesus. Also in the comments, can you give us, like, do you have a short name? Do you have can I call you Para or Mjot? I feel like I'm butchering your name, and I don't want to butcher your name. I want to respectfully say your name correctly. He says he only bet $5. You bet $5 for $40K. Well, I guess a 7-leg parlay.
Holy shit!
A 7-leg parlay. You got it. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a kick in the dick.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You suck, Kyle Schwarber, and we've said it since
Screw
Joe
you.
Buck.
Yeah.
Since Joe Buck.
Go hang out with Joe Buck, you asshole.
You big jerk. Oh, here we go. Oh, I love this. He says you can call him Joe. All right, Joe. That's what we're calling you. I didn't have a big asshole of the week until this whole damn how are we going to watch the Cleveland Guardians? How are you going to watch your baseball team this year? And then it was like presented like it was a good thing. Man, I got to tell you, years ago, Katie and I cut the cord. We did the whole, we're not doing cable anymore. We're going to do like a streaming service, and then we'll just do the separate things. It was supposed to save money. Bullshit. It hasn't saved anything. Now I got to pay extra money for FanDuel, and I got to pay extra money for the Guardians, and I got to pay extra money for this and extra money. Oh, you want to watch those shows on HBO? You got to pay extra money for that. Oh, Amazon Prime, you got to pay extra money for that. Oh, you like Ted Lasso? Well, fuck you. You can only watch it in this place. Here, pay for Apple TV. It just the whole damn situation sucks. And to be honest with you, it came to a head with the Guardians this week. I love the Guardians. I want to watch as many games as I can. I've got them on right now, right in front of me as they play the Padres. When they came out and were like, well, all you got to do is pay just an extra $99 this year. And listen, it's only $99 for the year. That's fine. But it's just on top of everything else. It's a goddamn pyramid scheme. I feel like every time.
Oh, yeah.
I try to do something that's going to save us money. It's Bernie Madoff at my front fucking door. It drives me nuts. They're like, oh, you want to watch maybe another game? Well, you got to pay for that shit. That's 7 times the cost. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. I don't like it.
It sucks a whole butt.
I don't like it. And I think I'm being taken advantage of. And I think they're all assholes, and they're making me feel old, to be honest with you.
Bohica, baby. Here comes the next streaming service, Bohica.
Yeah, that's right. My asshole. That's my asshole of the week. All right, let's move on, Chad. We've got a few other things, but you made a video that I thought was interesting on our TikTok page, and I think it's more of a discussion for here than it was for the TikTok page, but I want to go over it. You were walking through Tower City.
Yeah, it was never. I don't think it would ever have been brought up on our show if I didn't put it on the TikTok.
So I think it's interesting because I think there's different ways to approach it. So I want you to explain it, and then we'll discuss it.
Sure. This whole Stephen A. Smith, LeBron James thing, one of the crux of Stephen A.'s argument, not crux of it, but he brought up the whole GOAT conversation, and I just don't do GOAT, like singular GOATs in sports, right? To me, there's only generational GOATs. And I don't, and the main reason for that is I don't think it's fair to compare the eras, right? Because the game has changed and evolved so much. All of the games, like baseball, basketball, football, all the major sports have changed and evolved so much throughout the years. I don't think it's fair. Right. I mentioned in the video that I think if you put Tom Brady back in the 70s, handing off to Earl Campbell for, 45 times a game, in an era where running backs ruled the roost, I think the conversation is completely different. Right. And then I think what people see right now is LeBron on McAfee. I mentioned in the video, goes, I could play in any era. Giannis Antetokounmpo would have 250 points.
This was my favorite part of your post, by the way.
Yeah, in the 70s. Well, yeah, of course. Those guys now would if you place them back in that era, yeah, of course they would. Because athletes are so much bigger, faster, stronger. But if you're going to place them back in that era, you've got to assume that they were born in 1920, 1930. They didn't have what's available to them now back then. So you can't assume that they would be the same athletes back then as they were now, right? And the same goes for Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell. If they were born in 1980, 1985, 1990, and their professional careers started later, yeah, they might be completely different athletes. So that's why I think there's too many variables in the conversation for me to just give the singular GOAT to someone. So I guess that was my whole point. Is what's the criteria we're going by when we talk about singular GOATs? Because to me, I don't think there is a valid criteria for GOATs.
I think there's one GOAT, and I think he's the only one. I think there's one GOAT that I don't think you can argue. I don't think era matters. I think it's the only one in all of professional sports, or at least the big four. Let's talk about the big four. And you know who I'm talking about, Chad. Who's the GOAT where you're like, well, yeah, he's the GOAT?
Are you talking about Tom Brady?
Nope.
Michael Jordan?
Nope, not basketball.
Baseball?
Not baseball.
What are you talking about? Hockey?
It's Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT. Like, he's the one guy where I'm like, okay, well, like, I know he's about to have his goal record broken, but like his points and assists records are never going to go anywhere near touched, right? Like, I think he's the only guy that you can look. I don't know who would you ever argue? Who would you ever argue is a greater hockey player, even when you factor in eras, than Wayne Gretzky? I don't think you would do it. I don't think you'd do it.
Okay.
I agree with you on all the other levels. And my favorite thing that you talked about in your video that doesn't get talked about enough, when I hear people talking about, it happens a lot when, us in Cleveland, we love to talk about Jim Brown and how great he was. And then people love to come back and be like, well, look who he played against. Or when you talk about the Bill Russells or even the earlier players, oh, well, look who he played against. They love to talk, oh, he's playing against plumbers. Do you know how much you think I've heard like guys on ESPN talk about that. And I feel like they think they are like saying, well, look at the competition. Like he was good, but the competition wasn't good. And what I see when I see that is, look at what a fucking unicorn that guy was in the 50s.
Right.
When nobody was like that. It
Right.
makes him even greater to me.
Right.
It makes him even greater. Like it makes Jim Brown, I think, is a greater football player because he was such a unicorn in a time where nobody like him had existed.
Right. Right.
Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
I think it's even greater because there was nothing like Wilt Chamberlain back then.
Right. Right.
And when you brought up the fact that, yeah, you could say Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whatever in the 50s would have dominated. Michael Jordan in the 50s would have weighed 115 pounds.
Yeah. Right.
LeBron James in the 50s would not have been this big beast-ass player that you see today for a lot of various reasons.
He spends $1 million.
And I don't do this. And I know Joe, I love Joe Maddox. He has been around us and our show and Twitter and all that a lot. I do not think the rings conversation has merit.
Yeah.
Especially in team sports.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to me about Michael Phelps's gold medals, then okay, we can have a conversation because that's an individual sport for the most part. But rings, okay. Like teams build teams and they win rings.
Yeah.
But like, I loved Chad. I think that's my favorite part of the video you made. We oftentimes try to project forward,
Right.
but we don't project backwards.
Right.
And I think it does damage, especially to the much older group.
Right.
When the game was evolving and changing and these guys were learning how to play and you had unicorn type players.
Right.
In my opinion, they're greater because of that.
Yeah. There were guys smoking cigarettes and eating like coffee cake at halftime. Like back in like the 50s and 60s. Like
listen, I do love a good coffee cake.
Yeah, so do I. Like that's just the way the game was. And you just have to assume, like, if you put LeBron back in that era or whoever back in that era, that's the kind of things they would be doing. Very little discipline that athletes have today was implemented back then. It was just something you did, right? And that you were good at.
It's also the way the guys were trained to play.
Yeah.
If LeBron James was 6'9", he wouldn't have been 6'9" and 275 pounds back then.
Yeah.
He'd have been 6'9" and like 220.
Right. Right.
If that was the case, he wouldn't have been trained to be a ball handler and a passer. He'd have been in the post.
Right. Right.
Like you just have to wait. You have to wait. I love my friend Jeff McDaniel is here. And I love Jeff jumps in the comments and says, can you guys talk some WrestleMania? You know what? Yeah, we can. because there's good shit happening in WWE. We could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that. We're going to do it in a little bit. I wanted to get that out because, again, the projections are, the other thing is we project from what we've seen.
Right.
A lot of people our age, Chad, will project what they grew up with.
Right.
As better than what's happening now.
Right.
But then they will project the things that were before them as worse.
Right. Right.
And it's all so subjective. So my ultimate point on this conversation, Chad, is there's no basketball GOAT.
Right.
If you can say it all you want, but if you took today's LeBron James, or maybe not today, 2010's LeBron James, and put him against 1994's Michael Jordan, he's going to eat him.
Right.
It doesn't mean LeBron is a better overall basketball player than Michael Jordan, but a 6'8", 260-pound LeBron James that has the handles that nobody else has ever had and the skill that he's going to eat him alive.
Right. Right.
He is the GOATs in most. It's the same thing as baseball. Dead ball era, live ball era, steroid era. These guys didn't play the same game of baseball.
Right. And that's why I think it's
guys
generational.
Didn't play the same game of football.
Yeah. Jordan was clearly the best of his generation. LeBron is clearly the best of this generation. Like, I just don't think it's fair to compare them as far when it comes to like the eras that they played in. It's silly.
And listen, I don't know if you watched the conversation LeBron had on Pat McAfee, but it made me like LeBron even more than I already do, which I'm a big LeBron guy.
I saw clips.
But Jote, because we can call him Jote now, says, was Stephen A. wrong for saying Bronny wasn't ready for the league yet? LeBron just wants everybody to bow down to him like, my God. That's not what happened. LeBron, he said it. He doesn't care if you call out Bronny for his basketball abilities. He doesn't care if we're talking about on the court shit. Stephen A. called out LeBron as a father. Stephen A. said some shit about LeBron as a dad.
Yeah.
And that's what LeBron confronted him about. Like that. And then Stephen A. is like, if he would have really gotten my face, I would have swung on him. That's my favorite quote of the whole thing. All right, pal. Take a swing, pal. Take a swing, Stephen A. I actually like Stephen A. Yeah. I am actually a Stephen A. fan. I know Stephen A. is very polarizing. I respect what he does. But, like, when he comes out and says shit like that, what are you going to swing on LeBron James? He will bury you like video game style.
Hey, listen.
Like it'll be like the Mario Donkey Kong thing with the hammer. Just bury him into the ground.
Hey, listen, I have no doubt that he would have swung on him. How long that would have lasted remains to be seen. But, yeah, sure, take a swing. Take a swing and see what happens.
0.0 minutes.
Yeah.
0.0.
Right.
All right. So I love that. I love the video chat. I think it was probably better here.
Sure.
Not saying that was a you thing. I wanted more people to engage with it, but I think I agree with you 1,000%. GOATs are generational.
Right.
There is no GOAT. Look at Zook says MJ is the GOAT. I'm telling you right now, MJ in this era is a different player.
Yeah.
It's a different player.
Here's the thing.
Like LeBron in the 80s would be a different player.
Right. Right.
Because they also got trained to play a different way. So it's generational.
Right.
All right, let's move on. We've got a few other things. One, Chad, the Cleveland Guardians are back.
Yeah, let's go.
Guards ball. Hashtag guards ball. Hashtag guards ball.
I think I like for the land.
They are
better.
back. I didn't like for the land. To be honest with you, I didn't like for the land at all.
No? You like guards ball better?
I kind of wish they would have just done Guardians with the logo and just been done.
Yeah, yeah.
Better than for the land, yes.
All right.
A promising start to the season, Chad. What we have seen from the Guardians so far very much resembles what we saw from the Guardians last year.
Yeah, for sure.
The series we saw in Kansas City very much resembles the brand and type of baseball we saw from the Cleveland Guardians last year. Obviously, the bullpen not quite as dynamic in Kansas City, but I'm not about to take opening weekend in a cold weather situation and evaluate the bullpen on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though,
nuts about people.
Otherwise, though, opening day was the microcosm of last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A 3-run homer given up in like the third inning to the Royals. And then the Guardians just scored. They scored 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th. Royals tied it up. Clase blew a save. No big deal. I'm not worried about that at all. And then Manzardo, just another big, I think it was Quan had a big hit in extras, and then Manzardo with a double to score 2 runs. Like, it was the microcosm of what we saw. And then when it came down to it and it was rubber match time in Kansas City, the Guardians come out, play a great game, get the victory, and they start the season 2-1. They lost last night in San Diego. But, like, to me, I don't know, Chad, I think this team is very much built to play the same way as the team last year that won 92 games played.
Yeah.
And to me, they started the season that exact way.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, it's the last year they were just a scrappy team that was never out of it.
Are you there?
They would get clutch hitting, and the bullpen would hold it steady. I mean, the one thing you wanted to come in this year with,
Chad, what's happening?
What? Huh?
Did we lose Chad?
What? Hello, I'm here. Hello.
All right. So do I move on? I feel
what?
like you're playing an April Fool's.
No. Fools. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Huh? Hello?
Chad, did you?
Hello?
Is it me?
No.
Oh, it might be me. No, it might be me.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Wow, that was a wild situation. Hold on. I can hear you. Talk.
Okay. I don't know what the hell I was saying.
You go. Just talk.
I don't know what the hell I was saying. Yeah. So, they started out the same way they started out last year. It's a team that's scrappy. It's a team that's never going to be out of a game. They got some clutch hitting, and the one question mark you had going into this season was, could you get more innings out of your starters just to rest that bullpen a little bit more? And yeah, that's what they got in that first series against Kansas City, and it paid off for them. I mean, they ran into Julio Lugo, one of the better pitchers in the AL last year, but it was still, they were still able to scrap their way and make it a 1-run game. But and then obviously this series against San Diego hasn't started out the way they wanted to last night, but that was because due to a couple of different factors. Luis Ortiz had a rough first go of it. And a base running blunder, and they left a lot of guys stranded. But
oh my God,
they're stuck in a 0-0 tie right now in game 2 in the top of the third. And I don't know. It's a lot of people overreacting to the Ortiz outing last night and the loss last night, and that's strictly because of the small sample size they have with Josh Naylor. I mean, we knew we were going to miss Josh Naylor, but Andres Jimenez, people going nuts because Andres Jimenez has hit a couple of home runs to start the season is wackadoodle to me. It's Looney Tune. Can we give it a little bit more time? Like, I'm not going to go nuts over game 4 of the ultra marathon that is the baseball season, right? Yes, obviously you miss him, but I'm not going to I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, what a bad trade, yada, yada, yada. Right? Everybody's upset. I know we've all had our issues with the way the Dolans do business, but why would we expect the Dolans to do anything other than what they've done since they took over the team in 2001? So, yes. Am I upset that the Guardians didn't do a whole lot in the offseason after an ALCS appearance? But these first 4 games into the season, like you said, Mike, they look like the same exact team that they were last year with the way they're performing.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was actually me. So hopefully we're back on time. because there was a wild delay that happened there, but I feel like I fixed it. But yeah, I agree. I like the way they're approaching games. I had people yelling at me on Twitter about that situation yesterday, but to be honest, that was all the Guardians' fault. The weird Gabriel Arias trying to steal while the pitcher's still on the rubber, and then it was like a double steal, and then it was the interference. And I know everybody's yelling about the fact that it was a balk or whatever. Nah, it was bad base running, and you got caught. And maybe it was a balk, maybe it was, but it was still a bad play that shouldn't have happened. And it really ran them out of that game last night, because if you'll remember the way that game went, if that didn't happen, there was a base hit that happened next, and you just can't. The thing about the Guardians is the way they are built. You cannot mistake yourself out of games. You have to play good, clean baseball. You have to be the most disciplined team in the league, and you'll win games. But if you're going to do shit like that last night, you ran yourself right out of the game last night. So hopefully they've learned a lesson from that, and they don't do that kind of shit anymore. But yeah, listen, I'm just glad they're back, man. I'm so excited. We're going to have to figure out what we're doing next week. So just forewarning, because opening day is next Tuesday. And Joey will be up here. He comes up this weekend. And we're going to opening day on Tuesday. So I don't know. We may have to record something before opening day. But I'm very excited to get baseball back here in Cleveland. Very excited to see some of the updates to Progressive Field from this offseason. Chad, go ahead.
No, I'm just listen.
Yeah, but I like the way they've started. I like the way they've started. I like the way I like a lot of the way Stephen Vogt is managing this team still, and we'll see. It's always tough. I said going into this year that I wasn't going to judge them too much on how they open the season, because when you start the season on a 9-game road trip against two teams that are you're going up against a Kansas City Royals team that is trying to compete in the AL Central, and a San Diego Padres team that has one of the best offenses in the National League. I'm not going to judge them too much on a 9-game road trip to start the year. But I like the way they've started so far. I mean, I know they're only 2-2, but I like the way they've played. I like the way they've started. And I think if they continue to play the way that they have played into the rest of the season, there's going to be a lot of wins. There's going to be a lot of wins that happen for the Cleveland Guardians this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know. I always say it every year. You just got to ride the ebbs and flows of a baseball season, right? Sure, you get mad about a loss, but you got to move on to the next one, because there's 111 billion games left.
Too much. Way too many games.
It's just, I don't know why we play baseball at the end of March. Why are we playing baseball at the end of March into April? There's no reason for it. But yeah,
I feel like baseball season should follow the same schedule as pool season. Memorial Day to Labor Day.
That's it.
And then playoffs.
That's it. Perfect.
I love if we could just squeeze that in, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. So Guardians baseball is back. That is very exciting. We had Andre not on last week to preview it, but it's been fun to just have it on almost every night since then. We've got the Cavaliers. I think the magic number for the number 1 seed is down to 3.
Yeah.
3 or
Yeah.
So any combination over the last several games of Cavs wins and Celtics losses that amount to 3 or 4 games will get the Cavaliers home court advantage. Real quickly, Chad. The Cavaliers, I know you want to see your team playing really well going into the postseason.
Yeah.
But also, I will tell you this. I've had this back and forth in my own head, and I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure.
It's been such a phenomenal year for the Cavs.
Yeah.
One of the best Cavs teams of all time.
Yeah.
Regular season. And knowing that now with the NBA, you've got the play-in that's going to happen, which is going to affect the schedule for the Cavaliers, right? They're not just going to jump in and start playing. The play-in games have to happen first.
Right.
So they're going to get a little break. I don't mind that they have to fight a little bit for this number 1 seed. And assuming they get it, which I think math is just telling you they're going to get the number 1 seed. I don't mind that they have to fight for a little bit. I don't mind that they've had a couple struggles here or there in the month of March, even though they've won like double as many games in March as they've lost. And then they get a little break. I don't think the traditional way of saying like, oh, we want them playing like great basketball going into the playoffs applies, because you're going to get a little break. And so I don't mind that they've had a little adversity. They're going to get a little break, and then it's go time. I think it suits the Cavaliers. I think the schedule suits them.
Okay. I do agree in the fact that I like that they're facing adversity late, that they're getting challenged late, right? That they're struggling a little bit late. But there's the way they're trending, the way they've been playing and trending. Now I know the schedule has had a lot to do with it, because like 6 plane rides on the West Coast is a bitch.
Yeah.
It's
By the way, did you know today they had their first practice at their home facility since the All-Star break?
Yeah.
That's wild.
No, yeah, I know. And it's not that I need to see like a complete turnaround before the postseason. I would like to see them not give up leads so easily. Yes. You know, I would like to see them a little bit more effort on the defensive end. And now yes. that may come. Now that they're back to sort of a regular type of end of the season schedule. That very well might come, but just the direction they've been trending in the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to say I'm worried, but it's made me uncomfortable.
I don't like having a 20-point lead and then it being down to 4 within 1 quarter.
Yeah, it's made me uncomfortable. I still think that they're, obviously I don't think they've like tanked the season. I don't think they've peaked too early, but I just think that it's made me uncomfortable. I would like to see them play just a little bit better here in the home stretch of the season. But no, do I think it's going to affect them in the playoffs? No, like especially in the first round, they're gonna sweep or beat whoever they end up playing in 5 games. But going forward in the later rounds, it's like, okay, all right, well, let's get back to us. Let's get back to being us, who we were. That I guess that's what I want to see as more, because these last couple of weeks they haven't been themselves, and there's reasons behind that, but they haven't been themselves the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, we don't have much time left. There's only a couple weeks of NBA basketball left until we're in the postseason, and the Cavaliers are going to be, again, mathematically, unless something wild happens. Like the Cavs have to lose all their games and the Celtics have to win all theirs,
which they very well could.
Take over. So the Cavs should be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
But again, we're getting to that point. We've talked about it all season long, and I think it's a little bit unfair to this Cavaliers team because first-year head coach, first-year system, and it's, you've been great in the regular season, but show me what you can do in the postseason. I think there's a little bit of unfairness to that, but we're there. We're there. We've made it. We're there, and the Cavaliers are going to have to prove it, and so we'll see what they do. So,
hey, look at us, huh? Look at us.
Here we are.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought?
Before we go to our cheers, I wanted to ask you, going back to MLB for a second, what do you make of these torpedo bats?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what I make of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They're legal.
Yeah.
So I don't really make anything of them.
Okay. All right.
I think if the Tampa Bay Rays, if it came out that the Tampa Bay Rays were using the torpedo bats,
then
everybody would be like, oh my God, they're geniuses. Look at the Rays using the torpedo bats. Oh, that's amazing. And listen, it hurts me to stand up for the evil empire and the Yankees, but like
Sure.
the only reason this is an issue, it would only be an issue for the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Cubs or like the big money market teams.
Right.
If the Milwaukee Brewers came out and they were using the torpedo bats,
Right.
and it was providing them good results, and it's legal. There's no rule against, like, it's not breaking any rule. Everybody on the planet, if the Guardians were doing it,
Yeah.
everybody on the planet would be like, yes, they are geniuses. We
Yeah.
got to follow suit. But because it's the Yankees, everybody's like, oh my God, these bats. Oh, listen, man, ultimately, again, the bats are great, but you could put a torpedo bat in my hand and I'm never going to touch a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Right.
You could put a torpedo bat in my hand and that curveball is striking my ass out every time. These dudes are making good, solid contact with the baseball, and they were just the first to do this kind of bat.
Yeah.
And if it really is as great as it is, all the other teams should follow suit. That's my take on it.
All right. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, they're legal. I mean, but so why would I have a problem with them? I mean, obviously, fuck the Yankees. They ruined baseball. But yeah. If they're legal and they're allowed to use them, I can't fault anybody for using them. So yeah, Guardians start using them.
That's my thing. The only reason it's a problem is because it's the Yankees.
Yeah.
If it was the fucking Toronto Blue Jays, nobody would say anything.
Yeah.
That's it. So listen, we're approaching 10:30. We've had a great episode here on episode 257, but now it's time for us to get into our cheers of the week. Chad, I'm gonna let you roll first. What's your cheer of the week this week?
Whew, okay. All right. My cheers of the week is going to go to I'm gonna go with Indian food.
I love Indian food.
It's been a while since I've had some, and I had some for dinner. I had some. The Indian kitchen out here in Mentor, no free ads. Out here in Mentor has it's some of the best butter chicken I've ever had in my life.
Oh.
And so yeah, it's I will be going again. It's amazing. I haven't had it for probably a couple of years now, like authentic Indian food. Like I've had chula, which is not real Indian food, but the Indian kitchen out here, give me that butter chicken all day, every day. Indian food. Mwah! Chef's kiss.
Yeah, I don't know why people are afraid of Indian food.
Yeah.
Because it is delight.
Yeah, sure is.
The same people that'll run to like Mexican food will run away from Indian food, and they're very similar.
Right. They really are.
Our favorite restaurant, Katie and I, every time we're on like a date night, or we have people that come in from out of town.
Uh-huh.
And I know this is an authentic Indian cuisine, so back off for a minute. But there's a restaurant here on the west side called Amba, which is like a modern take on Indian food. I know it's not authentic. It's not
sick
like
brag, dude.
But listen, Amba here on the west side is one of the best restaurants in Cleveland.
Yeah,
it is unbelievable. So I'm with you. Every time I travel, we find, like, for work, and you see me in the hotels, we find a really good Indian restaurant that we go to. So look, I knew Joe was going to have a comment on this. He's Punjabi, so he has it every day.
Oh,
I'm
good. You make a good butter chicken, Joe?
Oh, everybody likes butter chicken. Nobody doesn't like that. All right, I have two cheers of the week. I wanted to cheer the Monsters. I don't go to enough Monsters games. I know, Chad, you work down there.
Oh yeah.
But one, it's just so great. Like, such a great atmosphere. If it wasn't for the fact that we had the Blue Jackets and the Penguins and the Red Wings. And if it wasn't for the fact that Cleveland was surrounded by hockey, even the Maple Leafs only a few hours away.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that Cleveland was surrounded by hockey teams, Cleveland is a great hockey town. And the Blue Jackets are a great organization. I will tell you that I went to a Jackets game with our buddy Matt Pfeffer, and he was like, man, the atmosphere at these games is just unlike other places. And it's only an AHL game, but like and listen, give them credit because they play in the same place as the Cavaliers, and so they get to use some of the same technology as like an NBA team or whatever. But like, damn, it is such a great atmosphere to watch a hockey game. So that's one cheer for me. I actually have 3 cheers. My second cheer, we talked about it last week, and I don't want to talk about this too much because it was difficult anyways. But I want to thank everybody. I want to cheers everybody that participated in the 50-50 raffle that we did for my wife's cousin, for Joey's cousin, for my cousin. And Chad, I thank you for kind of jumping in and being a part of the process.
Yeah.
We had a death in the family, a horrendous death, a tragic death. And we did a 50-50 raffle over the last week. And thank you to everybody that participated. Some of you participated in the 50-50. I won't say who it was. Other people participated in other ways because maybe the 50-50 wasn't available in their state. But we raised, between the 50-50 and other areas, we raised over $3,000 for our cousin Chloe and her baby Hunter. And I want to give a shout out to the people that participated. I want to give a shout out to our buddy Dan Wise that won it. And I want to give out a shout out to the selflessness of the people that participated. That's a lot of money that's going to go to a part of them and their recovery from the situation that you guys did. So big time shout out to you guys. I couldn't be more grateful. I could not be more grateful to all of you guys that participated in that. And last but not least, shout out to us, Chad and Joey. 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Actually, let's tell a funny story. A little bit more than 5 years ago. Chad Meyer and I, who have been calling football games together forever and have had a broadcasting background together,
right,
decided we wanted to do a podcast. And Chad Meyer and I, in like February of 2020, recorded 2 episodes of this podcast that we called Garage Beers.
Right.
That we had no idea how to get out to anybody. Right. And then we brought in Joey, and he goes, I can get that out to everybody.
All right.
And
deal.
Did.
Come on in, Joey.
And we had this magical threesome.
Meow.
Nah, but we had this magical thing that came together in the middle of a pandemic. When, if you go back and listen to our first, second, third, fourth episode, we talked a lot about Tiger King.
Oh, yeah.
We talked a lot about Tiger King.
Some of the most entertaining episodes we've had to this day.
To this day. And we have had some of the most incredible interviews and some of the biggest guests and some of the most fun things that I've ever done in my whole life.
Yeah.
Have happened once a week on this show. And we are now at 5 years of doing it. And I promise you there's no slowing down.
Nope.
If anything, we're only speeding up. So my last cheers is to us. It's to you guys that support us. It's to everybody that loves to just sit down and have a beer or a few with us on Tuesday nights and hang out and talk about our favorite sports or life situations or movies or video games or whatever the fuck we want to talk about on Tuesday nights. Shouts out go to, listen, 5 years. Shouts out go to Belly Up Sports, where we started years ago. We started with them. Shout out goes to the OBR for contacting us and being like, hey, we want you guys to come do this with us.
Yeah.
Because it was local.
Right.
Shout out to everybody that supported us, everybody, all of you that watch us, all of you that listen. We appreciate you guys. We love every last one of you. And we promise you it's only getting bigger and better from here.
Let's go.
Let's go. So that's going to do it for episode 257 of the Garage Beers podcast. Our shouts out tonight go to our host, the OBR. Go make sure you are subscribed to the OBR.com and the OBR on all the socials. Make sure you go follow Beau Bishop, whether it is in Cleveland here as part of Cleveland Browns Daily or in Columbus as part of Bishop and Friends, at Beau Bishop on Twitter. He is awesome. We had a great time with Beau tonight. And our last and biggest thank you goes out to all of you, whether you joined us here live tonight for episode 257, or whether you're going to check us out later on YouTube or Twitch or Apple or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you. We love you. And that's going to do it for episode 257. For Joey, who's not here tonight, at Garage Beers Joe. For Chad Meyer at Garage Beers Chad, I am Michael Keefe at Garage Beers Mike. Go follow the show at The Garage Beers on all the socials. And until next week, cheers. And we'll talk to you next week. See you later, everybody.